Hello, sir. Yes, you, sir. Do you have valuable data you need to transfer between your space-age computer technology, but the old, outdated floppy disk does not carry enough data for you? Well, I'm here to talk to you about the future. Behold, the parallel printer port, where you can transfer all of your data very quickly by today's modern computing standards.
Boo! You stink!
Welcome to another episode of Rapidly Aging Tech. Whereas our 1920s announcer has said, we're going to be talking about using a parallel cable to transfer files between two computers. Now, the reason you may want to use this is if you're in a situation where you do not have your computers hooked up via a network. Perhaps you can't, or there's an inconvenience to it. There's no USB jump drives. There's no FireWire to transfer data. And you're limited to your removable media being something like a floppy disk, where, I mean, it's fine and dandy until you start running into big files. So this, using parallel cables, can actually be helpful. I'm going to show you how to do it. One practical example here is the IBM 5170. On the front here, we have two floppy drives that are 1.2 megabyte 5 1/4 drives. Since my last episode, this bottom drive has been replaced with a working drive. So I have two working drives. The problem you may run into is if you have a computer like this, are later DOS files that maybe they came on multiple floppy drives, but then were condensed together because you found them on the internet into one file. Something you can't split up. Some games, you'll find it's a bunch of small files all scattered together, and you can manually, it's time consuming and irritating, but go in, break that up into multiple floppy disks, and then shove them all through and put them on the computer. However, there are some programs that it's just one single executable that's quite large. I know there are some programs out there that are designed to try to break those up and split them on multiple disks, but if you don't want to deal with one of those, then using a using a parallel cable may be the way for you. And as you know, a computer this old won't have a way to connect to a standard network. Now, maybe an expansion card might do it, but if you're keeping something at least relatively age appropriate, it's not going to have that. The astute amongst you who this sort of project isn't all that surprising or new may question why I'm using parallel as opposed to serial. This is a serial cable that has one end that's the 9-pin and one end that can split to either 9-pin or 25. Why am I using parallel as opposed to serial? Well, I keep running into, and I've seen multiple programs say this, that once a 32-bit edition of Windows is introduced, serial is no longer an option. One program is LapLink. This is LapLink Gold 11, so this is a later version. In its materials, when it talks about connecting two computers together, it says anything past Windows ME, you have to use parallel. There's no option. When ME and older, serial or parallel are usable. Please leave in the comments if you have any reasonable reason why that's the case. I don't understand why parallel and serial wouldn't be options for all computing. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that once we hit 32-bit, serial cables, we can't send data with them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Here we're around the back of the IBM 5170. Those who've seen my last video have noticed that the sound card and the cluster card have been reversed. That's because the sound card is 16-bit and I put it in an 8-bit slot. A viewer pointed that out. It worked fine, but I switched it over. The cluster card would be a good way to transfer data between this computer and another computer, but I'm still looking for the software to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to plug into the long parallel port here. I suspect that the second parallel card, the one with the fans on it, Because it's a much later model, something that I believe expected a 486, it should be a bit faster than the original IBM parallel card. And in case you've never dealt with a parallel cable, it has this trapezoidal shape, so you know which side is which. And so now we have this installed. Now we have to plug this other end into the other computer we're going to use. One additional note is that you're going to need, if you want to do this sort of thing, a lap link compatible parallel cable. It's not the same as your standard plain Jane printer cable. A few of the wires are crossed. The wiring's a bit different, which allows for this type of data transfer. So if your cable doesn't specify anything special on it, it's probably not going to work. So you can find these on eBay. Mine came with a kit with a serial cable and LapLink software, though we won't be using LapLink software, as I'll show you. All right, the next thing you need to do is prepare the host computer. So the IBM 5170 is going to be the remote. It's the one I'm adding files to and playing around with. You need to have essentially the master computer in this situation. And for that, I'm using my Dell Latitude D610, which deserves a video on its own. As you can see, it's an older laptop, so it still has some actual I/O on it. And it has, since it's a later model, it's a later computer compared to the 5170 and its expansion cards, it comes with the colored parallel cable, parallel port, which is pink. And serial, of course, is sort of a blue. It's almost more of a green than VGA is the standard blue. So we're going to be using this. And we need to prepare this thing so that the files I want to add onto the 5170 are present. So we need to switch out this battery pack I put in here. This laptop, once again, deserves a video of its own for all the neat features it has. But I need to put the DVD drive back in it. So here's the DVD drive. It's in it most of the time, but if I know I'm not going to use it and I'm just trying to stay away from a charger, then I simply take it out and put it in a battery pack to give the thing more battery life. And there we go. All right, now let's get this cable attached here. Doing this through a viewfinder is quite awkward. So we have, of course, the cables matched up. You know, for those of you who've dealt with older computers, this probably isn't any new information to you, at least how to connect parallel cable, but some people may have never seen them. I did that off camera. Yeah, it just simply slides in. And if you're doing something more permanent, I usually tighten down the screws. And in fact, I probably will, since the laptop is likely to be jostled around a bit more than the desktop. All right, so now I'll get everything fired up and explain how the program works. All right, so here we are on the laptop, all fired up, ready to go. So we've already installed the program, and that's it here. It's LM210 setup. That's a Link Maven. There it is. The reason I'm using Link Maven as opposed to, say, LapLink is because LapLink, especially the later versions, are designed for Windows environments only. So communicating to a DOS machine isn't something it can do anymore. Alright, so how do you get these computers to communicate? Well, first you install the program on the main computer. Then you open up its directory, the program files. It should be under Briggs Softworks. Open that up. Link Maven. And then you're going to see, some of the program files and whatnot. The one you care about for the DOS machine is dremote.exe. And it's only 23.9 kilobytes. What you'll do is you'll copy that off of this computer, put it onto whatever media you have to put onto your DOS machine, be it a 3.5 or 5.25 inch floppy drive. Or, I guess if you have a CD drive, you really don't need to do this step, because you could... Actually, no, you do need to do this step if you have a CD drive, because the installer for the whole program is a 32-bit program. So you'll put dremote, copy it, and put it onto the DOS machine. On the DOS machine, you'll make your directory. In this case, I did Link Mav, and you'll see dremote .exe. To activate it, and since it's just a machine you're remoting into, there's not a whole lot to do. You set it, and then it sits waiting to receive a communication from the main machine. So you'll do remote, and then what you'll also do is, if you're not on parallel port 1, it assumes parallel port 1, you'll put whatever parallel port it's on. LPT 2. Enter. Alright, so what you see is the Link Maven here is sitting trying to synchronize with the main computer. And it'll just sit like this until it receives the proper signal. Now that we have the other computer waiting to synchronize, we'll close this. Let's go into the start menu, which of course is a little off camera. And just go to wherever Link Maven installed itself, which should be over in Programs and under Link Maven 2. And you will do Link Maven. If you're connecting to 32-bit machines, you'd do Link Maven remote on the remote machine, and then Link Maven proper on the main one. This program is free and does not work on 64-bit versions of Windows, so says the creator. All right, once you fire up the program, this is what you'll see. It's sort of a dual window thing. Over here, you'll have the main computer. Over here, you'll have the remote computer. We haven't connected yet, so we need to get that sorted out. Over here is the connect button. So we'll hit that. And whoop, there it went. Now we're connected. So as you can see, it detected both floppy drives on the DOS machine, along with the hard drive, which has the label of MS-DOS 6. On the main machine, we have our hard drive C, and we have a disk in the optical drive. You'll also notice that the screen on the DOS machine has changed too. It's listed how many packets have been sent, and it's now in the last, whatever the last command was, it's no longer synchronizing. So now the thing we want to do, oh, by the way, some troubleshooting. If you ever find that it's having a hard time connecting and you know you have the correct cable, go up to File, Preferences, and in Preferences, you will find where it's trying to connect. You might find that it's doing parallel printer port 1, and it's not giving a real I/O address. I'm not sure if this is because Windows by default is set for the parallel port to not use a hardware interrupt. I'm not sure, but on my computer, it's using the standard I/O address of 0378. When it was selected up here by default, it couldn't connect. So by adding that in, you saw how quickly it connected. So that's the way to do it. So check in Preferences if you run into some problems. If during transfers you're finding that there's some connections being lost or something goofy going on, you may want to select Disable OS Port Polling. That sometimes causes interference. I did it initially because I wasn't sure why it wasn't connecting properly, but I've left it on just in case. So now we have them both connected. Let's open up the C drive on the DOS machine, and we want to put in a program of one kind or another just onto the C drive itself. So here we're going to pull it off of the CD, and I want to put in Word, Microsoft Word, which I have in here somewhere, probably in Utilities. Sounds like something I would name it. And here we go. Word. Word 5.5. There you go on the directory tree if you want. So we've selected that. We've selected that we just want it to go on C on the other drive. There you can see it. So now we're going to hit copy over on the main machine. So you can see it's copy and then pointing over towards the remote machine. So we're going to do copy. And now it gives you some information. It tells you what you're copying, and then it's telling you where you're sending it. I'm sending it straight onto C. Confirm replace it would be if you're actually replacing anything, which I'm not. And we are now going to do OK. And I'm pausing here for a second because I have my watch on me. And the reason I have my watch is because this is probably going to take some time. From my understanding, parallel cables had a maximum transfer speed, maximum, of it was either 4 megabytes per second or 4 megabits per second.
Ludicrous speed.
I'll correct that with text in the video. I can't remember which. I lean towards 4 megabit because megabytes would be a decent amount of data. But they usually were more about half that. It's pretty much 2 megabits or megabytes. I suspect we're not even hitting that maximum with this, so I'm going to time it, how long it takes to move this file, and then we will confirm its size. But it looks like, if you look down here, the file we're moving is probably around 3.5 megs, so we'll see. It's not going to take, 2 seconds to move it. I can guarantee you that. So let's start the transfer process. All right, and 1, 2, 3, and send. So as you can see, the transfer has begun. And so that's what shows on this side. We got some nice bars showing us our progress. On the DOS side of things, we see how many packets have been sent. And that's slowly ticking up. Now, some of you may be concerned that, oh, well, I've bottlenecked this whole process by having it still on the CD. Well, I'm not sure if you can hear it in the recording, but the CD access is just a little bloop at a time. It's not really slowing the process down at all. I also don't think that the hard drive on the DOS machine is slowing it down either, because it's writing quite cheerfully, just a little blip, and it sits waiting. So it's all about the parallel transfer speed. So I'll get back to you and tell you how long it's taken. Alright, I didn't keep the camera on the entire time, but I did keep an eye on the computer and my watch. The transfer time for about 3.5 megs was 25 minutes and 5 seconds. So you can do the math in your head as to whether or not what the speed is there, of how many bits per second were being transferred. But yeah, 3.5 megs over 25 minutes and 5 seconds. So clearly, if you had this program on floppy disk, that'd be faster. But I guess really can't complain about this super high-speed form of communication between computers, especially since it's all going over cable. But compared to modern standards, it's not the fastest. Oh, poppycock! This is the future! Well, okay. So now let's see if it actually transferred properly on the main machine. Well, on the IBM 5170, because I want to have a word processor on there. Anywho, so we need to disconnect, and we're going to close the remote module. And we've now disconnected. Alright, it's going to be fuzzy for a bit, so now I'm going to go back to the root of the drive, and we're going to see if, aha, you can see in Microsoft Word, the executable has been put there. So let's see if we can install it.
It's a trap!
Didn't see that. I don't really need to type the exe, but just in case. Ew, this is going to be messy. I should have put this in a file. So I might have to go into DOS shell and clear all these out and actually put this in in a directory as opposed to just filling up the C drive. Oh, mistakes may have been made. All right, so DOS shell is a very handy tool that was introduced, I think, in DOS 5, and then was, I think, eventually not present, but you could get it in a DOS 622 supplemental disk, which I have procured and put on here. So right now we're going to create a directory here, and I also have my mouse driver installed, a serial mouse. So now there's all sorts of just junk on here over in the C drive, which I'm going to have to move over. So let's see if I can move that over into Word. So let's see if I can shift click. Yes. So I'm going to do this a bunch and clear up the C drive. Oh dear, mistakes were made. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, as far as the parallel port speed, how it took 25 minutes, a serial port in my mind should have taken longer. A parallel port can send multiple bits at a time, while a serial sends everything one at a time. So a serial cable, I would have to imagine, would have been even slower. Alright, I think we solved that problem for the most part. Hopefully I didn't move too many files around in the wrong spots. So now we're installing Word. Alright, we've restarted the computer. If I remember correctly, you should be able to just type Word at C and have Microsoft Word open up. Oh, hey, there we go. Oh, and that's kind of a modern looking mouse cursor, isn't it? Whoa. Oh, there we go. Let me pull up the camera a bit so you can see the menus. So there we go. We have a word processor now. So the reason I'm showing you this isn't so much that, hey, look, we have Microsoft Word, as much as it is a matter of, ooh, the ruler. Yes, I'll have the ruler on. It's just showing that the all the files, the installer file transferred properly without any corruption. Oh, look at that. A spell check, that's handy. Okay. So I can say that this has been a successful day. Of course, there was some fumbling off camera because I had accidentally moved my command com file and Win386 file over into the Word directory, which resulted in, when I exited the installer to skip over the printer drivers, DOS yelled at me for not having a proper command com file. Luckily, restarting the computer, it was able to function, so then I moved those back over. Alright, so to conclude here, I hope this video has been short enough to be a bite-sized tech. I'm going to shoot for it to be. Wrong. We've learned that this is a viable method of moving files around. So if you have old computers where you're basically limited to floppy disks, but have parallel port, which you probably do, this is a good option. I don't understand why serial port is not an option, why both these programs, LapLink and Link Maven, don't allow it for Windows 32-bit to 16-bit communication, but I don't know. I hope you give me an answer. But I will say that it probably would be slower than even this. So it takes some time, but it works. I can also recommend Link Maven. I will put a link to that website in the description so you can use this program as well if you don't have your own copy of LapLink that's old enough or something. So with that, I will leave you be. Please join the Retro Machines group on Facebook. You'll find me there. You'll find Phil's Computer Lab. You'll find Victor Bart, who's renamed his channel Retro Machines. Bigger guys than me. A bunch of other small guys too, who make some videos or just have pictures and things they like to share. So if this is your bag, feel free to join in. So with that, have a great day, and I will see you around on the channel. Bye.
The sun has got his hat on, hip, 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 hooray! The sun has got his hat on, and he's coming out today. Now we'll all be